Today we're going to learn how to solve or formulate and solve problems with rational functions. Now, there are many applications of rational functions, such as averages, such as or pretty much any time that we ever have to involve division. So in this case, we have ourselves a situation in which we have a high school dance. So to read out loud, it says a high school is preparing a fall semi-formal dance open to all students in grades 9 through 12. The student government has already rented the hall, agreed on snacks to be catered, and hired a DJ for the music. The total cost for holding the dance is $1,250. The student government needs to recover the total cost for holding the dance. The function P of x equals 1250 over x models the price, P of x, they need to charge for each student if x students attend. At this point, we need to make sure that we understand that P of x is the price and that x is the number of students. That way, every single time that they ever give us those numbers down below, we'll just know exactly where to put them. And luckily for us, they already gave us the formula, which is right here. We call it P of x because of the fact that the price depends on how many students actually show up. So now we have our first question. It says, how much will each ticket cost if 105 students attend the attend the dance? So 105 is the number of students. And so does that go in place of x or does it go in place of P of x? In this case, since it's a number of students, it goes in place of x. So what that means is that we copy down our formula, but this time instead of x, we say 105 equals 1250 divided by 105. Which should make sense because we're going to divide up the total cost between all the students. So if we divide the total cost by the number of students, that'll tell us how much each person has to pay. So we just calculate that real quick. 1,250 divided by 105. Which is 1190. This right here tells me how much it's going to cost for each ticket. So $11.90 per ticket. And there's our answer. Now there are only so many questions that they could ask us given this information. The next thing that they're going to ask us is, if the student government wants tickets to cost less than $12, how many students must attend the dance? Though granted, we already did get a price that's below $12 right here, but let's see if we can actually let fewer people go. Remember, the way that this is going to go is that the more people that show up, the less each one has to pay. So if fewer people show up, then this price right here will go up. They vary inversely with one another. So the way that we're going to deal with this is that they give us the ticket price right here. So that is my price, which is P of x. So instead of P of x, I'm going to write 12 is equal to 1,250. But we don't know how many students that is, so we use x. At this point, we need to now solve for x. We can use our calculator, or we can use algebra. The way that we're going to solve is we need to get x by itself. Problem is, x is in the denominator right now. To get it by itself, I'm going to get rid of the denominator by multiplying both sides by the denominator. What happens here is that these will cancel out. And now we get 12 times x is equal to 1,250. Now I need to get x by itself, so what I will do is divide both sides by 12. And therefore x is equal to 1,250 over 12, which is 104.167. But now we're faced with a little bit of a problem here. We've stated before that the more students that show up, the more the price goes down. The fewer students that show up, the more the price goes up. So this right here is the number if the tickets cost exactly $12. They say that they want it to be less than $12, so we need that price to go down. In order to make the price go down, the number of students has to go up. And here's what this means for us here. It is impossible for 0.167 people to actually show up to a dance. That would be kind of scary. So we ask ourselves, okay, is it 104 or is it 105? Well, since 104 is below this number right here, that would cause the price to go up. If we are exactly at $12, then taking this number down at all will cause the price to go up a little bit. So what we want to do is make this number go higher so that way the price will go down. We're going to take this up to the number 105. 105 people at least. And the reason why I'm rounding up is because that'll make the price go down below $12. What price? Well, we found that out last time, $11.90. So we'll just use what we have. But we need 105 people at least to show up. More can show up, that'll drive the price down, for sure. But that's the bare minimum that we have. Now they ask me another question, which is, what is a reasonable domain? Well, in order to be able to answer this, we got to figure out exactly what they're talking about when they are saying domain. A domain always goes with the variable x. X is the number of students. So what they're asking me is, how many students could possibly show up? But in order to answer that question, we need to ask ourselves, what is an impossible amount of students to show up? One possible example of this is, well, is it possible for 0 people to show up? Sure, that means that nobody comes. But what is impossible for to show up? Say again? Anything over that number? No, that many people can show up. Here's the thing, a negative amount of people can't show up. Sorry, but sad people going to a dance doesn't count as negative people showing up. It doesn't count. So the lowest possible number that can actually show up here is 0. Now at this point I might want to use an inequality, but I'm not going to, because it's also impossible for a fraction of a person to show up. We can only use whole numbers. So 0 can show up, 1 can show up, 2 can show up, 3 can show up, and so on. Question is, what is the largest amount of people that can show up? Our temptation might be to say infinity. But you got at this point we can break away from the math a little bit and think to ourselves, an infinite number of people can't possibly show up because we don't even have an infinite number of people in the world. We have 7 billion people. Not to mention, this is all in one place. It probably in some kind of high school gym, and only so many people can fit. So I'm not going to get a specific number because I don't really know how big this building is. But I'm going to say that the highest number is going to be whatever the building capacity is. And what I mean by building capacity is how many people can actually fit in the building. So I'm not going to say infinity, and I know that it leaves it a little bit open-ended there, but this will be the rule for whatever gym that they have. The gym could be really big, it could be really small, or wherever it is that they do decide to hold this thing. But the lowest number that can show up is 0. The highest number that can show up is, well, however much the building can fit. Now they're asking me, is $14 a reasonable price for tickets? So once again, it's a price. So we're going to do exactly what we had done before. And instead of P, we're going to write 14. So we will solve. 14 is equal to 1250 over X. But here's the thing. A little way to get this done a little bit faster is rather than have to go through all these steps, what you can notice is that since these cancel out over here at the top, look at this equation and look at our original equation. Well, right, this one right here. You'll notice that the 12 and the X just switched places. So I'm going to do the same thing here. X equals 1250 over 14. We calculate what that is. And it gives us 89.29. 89.29 people have to show up to have a price of exactly $14. So the question is it a reasonable price? $14. And we could get mixed answers for this. There are good explanations for yes and no. Yes, because around 89 people can show up. But if we want to think about it in terms of being very practical here, $14 exactly results in a fraction of a person showing up. We can have 89 people show up. We can have 90 people show up. Those are possible, but 89.29 people is not going to show up. And if we truly get the price by simply dividing, 14 is not a reasonable price. We can get, if 89 people show up, 1250 over 89 is 14.04. So we can have a price of 14.04. And if 90 people show up, we get a price of 13.88. These right here are the ones that go with the whole numbers, and those are the prices that we're going to use. So you could say that 14 is a good estimate because it's pretty close to this one, but it's not exact. If you charge only $14, well, you're going to either end up with leftover money or you're going to end up having to pay out of your own pocket, which is something that you really don't want to do. So just to sum up, whenever you're faced with a problem like this, they're going to typically give you a formula to use. And once they give you that formula, most of the time, you're just going to plug in the numbers to the appropriate spot. 105 students goes in place of X. Dollars will go in place of P, as it does right here as well. And that is how we deal with this formulating and solving aspect of rational functions.